The execution of a story is not the same as the premise of a story. For example, The Shawshank Redemption. The premise of this movie is of a guy who is wrongfully accused of being thrown in jail, who ends up finding a way to free himself. This is the story. However, those who have watched The Shawshank Redemption know that it's much more than that. It's more than just the premise. It's the execution of that premise which makes it entertaining, and what makes it critically acclaimed to be one of the most beloved movies of all time. Now, let's use that same ideology for Percy Jackson. What does it take to make a Percy Jackson story? I don't think that's an easy question to answer. What's the story about? Let's start there. Percy, a young kid who is someone who gets told he's gonna be nothing in life, and do nothing in life. He fails in school, can't read, can't make friends, sees stuff that no one else can. Okay, that's a start. He goes to a magical camp and realizes he's a demigod and then gets sent out on this quest to save the world. Okay, there's still more to work with, but let's see what else. His quest ends up teaching him that even though he's someone who's told him he's nothing and can't do nothing, he ends up finding that he does have a place in the world through this quest. Okay, that's the first Percy Jackson story right there. The bare bones, sure, but that's the story of the first book. But still, there's lots to fill in, lots that are not fleshed out, like what happens on this quest? What does he learn that gets him to learning that he has a place in the world? So many questions. Now, let me ask you again. What does it take to make a Percy Jackson story? Well, episode 7 of the Percy Jackson TV show is more than just the bare bones of the story, more than just a direct copy from its source material. Throughout the Percy Jackson movies, the Percy Jackson musical, and even the Percy Jackson books, episode 7 is probably one of the best executed Percy Jackson stories we've ever gotten. Let me explain. This episode features our main characters, Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, who go to the underworld to save Sally Jackson, Percy's mother. Getting Percy's mom back from Hades is the main thing we as the audience care about here, because throughout the series so far, we've grown to care a lot for Sally throughout the first episode, where she and Percy have this very engaging mother and son relationship. We then have a multitude of episodes where Sally is the main driving theme in this story, with episode 2 where Percy makes his decision to find glory because of his mother. Episode 3 we relate to Sally through Medusa's story. Episode 4 we see Sally trying to teach Percy to learn how to swim so he can survive in the world. Episode 5, we get a glimpse of why Sally decided to keep Percy out of the Greek world. And episode 6 with built-up tension to Percy finally en route to saving his mother from the underworld. This has been a good way to keep the audience engaged with the story, from a more human perspective through the audience's care for Sally Jackson. Episode 7 is now the story where our main characters save Sally Jackson. And we're finally here. Percy and Grover meet Hades. They try to bargain for his mother. A plot twist reveals that Hades is not the villain in this story, and now Percy is forced to leave the underworld and leave his mom behind for the greater good of the world. All these episodes building up Sally's character, making us the audience care for her and wanting to see Percy save her, and just like that, it's over. This is the same plot the book followed. It's a plot that intrigued millions of people to this story for years, and it's finally been shown on screen, and that's fantastic. However, I did mention earlier in this video that episode 7 is one of the best executed Percy Jackson stories, even surpassing its original novel source material. Well, in this episode, there's an entire scene that wasn't in the original book. This was a scene no one was expecting, and it's one of the best scenes in Percy Jackson, period. This scene is a flashback of Percy's mom trying to get Percy to go to school, because remember, he's a kid who can't read, can't make friends, fails in school, and is told day to day that he's a nobody. And his mother keeps trying again and again and again to get Percy into schools he keeps getting kicked out of. It's a heartbreaking scene that adds more to Sally's character than originally in the book. Sally ends up praying to Percy's godly father, Poseidon, who shows up and listens to Sally speak about the hardships of raising a child who struggles with fitting in with the world. It's a moment that shows us why Sally makes the choices she makes, why she tries so hard, why she works so hard. It's raw and emotional. And that's great. That's what makes this episode, this show, this franchise. How the Percy Jackson stories are able to balance this big life-threatening, world-ending quest of Percy going to the underworld and fighting for his life, while balancing the smaller battles of parenting and what it takes to raise a child who just cannot fit in no matter how hard they try. It's a well-done sequence within a well-done episode. Which brings me to my ranking of this episode, that being 5 out of 5. It may just be my favorite episode we've gotten in this series so far. I mean, I've already said everything that needed to be said. However, I'll conclude that this episode and entire show has been bringing lots of new scenes and new dialogue and new moments for our characters. But all of it felt like Percy Jackson. The spirit of this book series lives on in this TV show, and it really showed within this episode more than any other so far. That's my review of Percy Jackson the Olympians Season 1, Episode 7. Let me know your thoughts of the episode in the comments below. Thank you for watching.